Just give me 1 minute. All right. This is Komlan. Thanks for coming on my channel. KN Alosh. My guest today is a special person, an entrepreneur, a great person who has a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge working in Africa and doing business in Africa. In fact, she's lived in Norway for quite some time, and she's moved back to Uganda, and she's going to share her experience as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as an African, and somebody who has a strong passion for changing Africa in terms of encouraging people to do business in Africa. And I welcome my guest, Monica Akech. Welcome to our
Hi.
show, and we would like to hear from you.
Hi, Komlan. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Nice to hear from you and nice to see you
Thank you,
after some
Monica.
years.
Thank you, Monica. We would like to tell us about yourself. Tell us about what you do and who you are.
Well, my name is Monica Akech, as mentioned. I'm Ugandan. Um, I run a marketing company that specializes in digital communication as well as event management. And I've sort of branched into luxury management of late. So that's a nutshell of what I do.
Oh, okay. Well, that seems to be an interesting area now because looking at companies that are trying to develop in Africa, that seems to be something that is more in demand. So tell us a little bit how you got started. I mean, where you started your company and
Um,
how you get to where you are now.
Well, actually, my company began as a result of frustration. I was studying for my master's in Norway in events management, and I realized that the odds of me getting a job within what I really like, that was event management and marketing, were next to impossible because I first had to learn the language, and that would take so many years. So I opted to start my own company out of my own experience. And I started it out as an events company that was focusing on African events within Scandinavia, and the reception was quite good. But then there were very few Africans at that time where I was staying, and this resulted in me changing the framework. So I just had it as a general event company that focused on events within Norway, and from that I grew into now what I'm doing in Africa, that is event marketing, event management, as well as luxury management. So I came back to Uganda. Well, I was on and off Norway, Uganda. So I'd set up my Ugandan company in 2015, while the Norwegian company was running from 2014 towards the end of 2014. So I needed to have a base here as well as in Norway. And so when I came back last year, I picked up from where I'd stopped, and till now with the coronavirus scandal crisis, so everything is on hold.
Oh, that's quite a lot. I mean, you give us a lot to what you do and who you are. So how long did you live in Norway?
7 years. I mean, it's on and off. Yeah, 7 years.
So you were between Norway and Uganda. You still had your footprint in Africa.
Yes, I love Africa so much. I mean, I have lived in many other countries, but I always come back here. So everywhere I go, Africa is at my heart.
That
And I
that's
think people
that,
close, yeah, so everyone close to me knows that I'm very Pan-African and I advocate for positivity. I mean, nobody can talk negative about Africa next to me because I always challenge them.
yeah, and
My
that
mission is, yeah,
no, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. I mean, I would say my mission is to, generate positive African stories that can be told by us. Enough of the negativity.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we have this, because we are interested in the African narrative to um,
Hmm.
there's a lot going on the continent that many people outside do not know, and
Yeah.
especially when it comes to young people doing business. They think of the problem that Africa has, but not understanding or not being aware of people like you who are doing amazing things in Africa. I mean, event management. I mean, from 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 what I know, there are a lot of marriages and weddings and parties, big parties that are happening in Africa. And having an event management company, it seems to be a killer.
Well, I can just highlight on that. What I do specialize in is mega events management, because that's what I specialize in as a course of study. So I don't do weddings and the like. For example, I'll give you a scenario like when you look at FIFA or IAF, that's mega event management, but I don't go into sports. Like now I've channeled my energy into pageantry, beauty pageants. And so I get young Ugandan girls, you model them, and they tell the African narrative in a very positive way. If you look at, for example, one pageant, Miss Universe, it's close to 1 billion people watching. When you put this young African there, telling a positive story about Uganda, about Africa, many people would love to listen to it. And then you do it professionally and in a way that's admirable. So that's one avenue through which I'm looking at. Other events would be conferences that really advocate for Pan-Africanism or positive happenings within Africa. So weddings and the like really are not within my niche. So it's really within the diplomatic space and events that have maximum media visibility. That's my specialty.
That's great. I mean, it seems like you are creating the African narrative, or telling the African story
Sure.
through young African women who are presenting the continent's beauty to the world, and
Yes,
that is something very, very interesting.
thank
So
you.
your how many companies do you have, or do you still have your Norway company running? Do you have anybody there running it for you, or you just kind of transfer everything to Uganda, and that's what you're doing now?
It's always nice to have footprints everywhere you go, right? So, yeah, I have a touch of my companies in different places. So, but now that I'm in Uganda for some time, I'd like to strengthen the Ugandan company for a short time or so. But they're all interrelated. One needs the other,
That's
and with a speciality in, you know, if Norway is focusing on different kinds of events, Uganda would be focusing on different kinds of events. So yeah.
Yes. So tell us a bit about Uganda. I mean, somebody who is watching this and want to know about Uganda. Tell us a little bit about Uganda.
In what sense? Because the tourism sense, investment sense, or
In
socially, or
investment sense, socially, in terms of tourism, just tell us something about Uganda, because
well,
somebody
the,
this
uh-huh.
we're kind of creating, a way to tell people that indeed Africa is an investment destination. Tell us about investment in Uganda, and tell us about social life in Uganda too.
Okay. Well, the best thing about Uganda, from many people's experiences, is the people. The people are very friendly and very hospitable. And as a business person, if you are to thrive in any environment, you need peace and calm and friendliness. So that's the greatest asset that we have as a nation. Another thing is it's really open for investment. Like we welcome all sorts of business ideas. Unlike many other countries, we are We are a very young nation. For example, we have, I don't know, over 60% of our population is under 30 years old. So, and this is a workforce for anyone who would like to invest in the country. In terms of tourism, we're blessed by nature. That's why we are called the Pearl of Africa. We have really beautiful parks, hotels, resorts, name it, but a few. And they're very affordable. Our food is delicious. You've been to Uganda, you can testify to that. And socially, our nightlife is incredible. If because it's peaceful, you can party for as long as you want, and no one will come and chase you or disturb you or put a curfew that okay, by this time you have to go home. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are very happy because we are always partying. Another thing, if you're to come to Uganda as a foreigner, just don't forget to pack your sense of humor. There's a lot of funny happenings as as you come over, and there's always stuff happening on the streets, everywhere, just something to laugh about. So some things are better experienced than explained, and most of the things on Google are not really exhausted. You have to be here to really document everything about the country. So that's just a little bit of about Uganda.
Okay, tell us about if somebody's interested in investing in Uganda, what is the best or more interesting investment worthy industry right now that is booming in Uganda that somebody can look into and say, hey, I'm interested in Uganda. I want to go to Uganda, but I'm trying to invest in Uganda. Where should the person look?
Well, I'd say right now maybe agribusiness would be a good avenue. Um, Real estate, you never go wrong with that. Um, what else? I'm trying to get out of my comfort zone and just think widely. Those two industries for now, I'd say, are the secure and booming businesses where the future really is headed. Um, Tourism is also a very good sector, but you really have to understand how things work here. There's a lot of promotion from the local to the foreign to the international world, but it would also be nice to have a two-way traffic sort of business promotion from the international world into Uganda, so that there's that cross exchange. Um, Whatever business would I advise? Any education? Um, most uh, most universities here in Uganda are set up by private people or a joint venture between Ugandans and some private people, especially within the what do you call it? The technical field. There's we don't have lots of vocational schools that can train people, so that would be a very good avenue to look at as well. We have universities, and for example, we don't have like a film school where you just train people how to develop scripts and filming and all that. We don't have many vocational schools. That's what I'd say, and it could be nice to venture into that. And I'm sure so many people would love to join that, and they'll pay if it's well equipped and professional.
That's I mean that's we kind of tell it all already. Uh, so let's say how much are we looking at in terms of investment? How much the person needs to invest in Uganda on a small maybe on a smaller scale, not on the millions of dollars investment, but
In what area?
on a very small
In
scale,
what area?
an individual. Yeah.
It's very hard to say because each industry has its own demands, its own capital. Like my industry, for example, is less because it's more of inviting people to come and experience something. So you have to be very creative, and it's very expensive or it can be very cheap depending on your creativity. When it comes to the technical and vocational industries, I wouldn't really put a figure onto the amount of money needed. Agribusiness, for instance, you need land, you need equipment to cultivate. Maybe that would be a cheaper area to look at. But I can't really say that I know how much is needed to start a capital venture. That would be very well answered by people in the investment authority sector. Yeah,
So
which I'm not.
yeah, that's good. I mean, I was back in 2013. I was in Uganda, and just the beauty of the country, and I visited a few places, and I was quite amazed by the beauty, the hospitality of Ugandans. It's amazing. And
Yeah,
I like the food too. You know, matoke
yeah,
was one of my favorites
yeah,
when I
yeah,
was in Uganda, and it's
yeah,
just few times we went out, and I liked the nightlife. It was wonderful, and that's something I still remember about Uganda, and I'm hoping someday to be back in Uganda, you know, and
yeah. Sure,
yeah.
you're welcome. You know, the thing about Uganda, one of my friends told me that there are two classes in Uganda: the haves and the haves not. The haves and the have nots. So when you're, I don't know how true that is, but when you're coming to do business here, you have to study the market, of course. Um, so, for instance, if you look at the food market, you can have an upscale restaurant or a downtown restaurant that caters for all audiences. So, starting a business really depends on who your target market is. And that can kind of make you think about the costs and all that it entails. I mean, I'm not talking about general business like the healthcare, where it's standard. You need a good hospital. It doesn't matter where it is really. But me, who's working in the luxury management business, I have to consider that. So that's what I chipped into the debate in relation to investing in Uganda or Africa in general. Really, it's understanding your audience and the kind of business you're setting up.
So with your company, how many events per year, or let's say per month, do you host for your company hosts? How many events?
Yeah. Hello?
Yep. Can you hear me?
No, can you please repeat?
Yeah. So your company, how many events do you host a year or a month?
Right now in Uganda, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because what we're doing um, is we are taking Uganda to the world. So my events are, like especially in the pageant business, we take the girls, conduct national finals and then send them to either Japan, America, Europe. So we have around 6 events, one national event and then 5 international events. So yeah, so we are busy all year round.
So
And
do you partner with some companies in Uganda to get this going, or it's just like you are the uh, only person in your industry who is just doing amazing things in Uganda, or do you have competition?
um, yeah, there is always competition, which is healthy, but anyone who's in events management can never be selfish because this is a business whereby you have to share. Sometimes you can create an event and you make less profits and other people make more money. For example, if I create an event here, you need buses, you need the transport guys, you need the hotels, you need designers. you need model scouts. So it's a very inclusive kind of business. So I do cooperate with very many entities within the industry, fashion designers who kind of design our stuff for the costumes. I collaborate with organizations so that we can promote the advocacies. For example, the UN Association of Uganda, Ashinaga, Japan, that kind of get Ugandan kids into universities and educate them. So we support that kind of advocacies, which I can't do alone, but that's just 10% of our work within what I'm working with. So it's very, very inclusive, extremely. And competition is there, but it's very healthy. And I'm glad because when I came and started this, the reception is extremely good. People are very keen to help and contribute. So yeah, that's the Ugandan spirit.
Okay. So what would you tell anybody who is living in the West, or let's say in the diaspora, and looking to move back to Africa,
Yeah.
and is interested in Uganda, and just what would you tell them? What would you say to the person who is say, hey, maybe I think I'm interested in going back to Africa, and I'm sure you've been following the Year of Return in Ghana, where they had a huge, African American having a huge interest in going back to Africa, but they're going to Ghana. Ghana is attracting a lot of African Americans. What would you tell anyone who's watching to look at Uganda? What's the catch for Uganda?
Well, there's so many aspects to look at. Africa is really good, Uganda in particular, but it can be really miserable if you don't have money, and that's the harsh reality. So number one, make sure by the time you're coming back, you have some money in your pocket to venture into, a profitable business. Secondly, know the right people, because this is a very, it's a small country where everybody knows somebody. So it becomes easier when you know the right people. They can help you maneuver the system or get the best deals, or, start a very good business venture and probably even get protected legally. For probably Ugandans who are living abroad, I know many people think the way I do. The best way is to put money into businesses that would make money and that would make them ideal returnees, because there's no point of coming back here. People say there are no many opportunities, or there's so many complaints now and then about the situation in Uganda and in many other African countries, which may be political or social. But I believe once you have money, it's really easy to conquer so many things. So first make your money, then know the right people, and then you can come back. But without a proper plan, you will be frustrated. And of course, there's so many, ups and downs, so many frustrations. People would say they came, they started a business, it didn't work or not. But yeah, once you have the right people and the right authorities on your side, it's possible. And sometimes we do forget that this is Africa. So when you come here, you just have to, change your shoes and get on the Ugandan shoes, because some things that worked in America or in Europe may not really be easily functionable here. So the mindset too has to change. You're like, okay, I'm back home. So, and also you can create a culture whereby, people learn how to keep time, how to observe deadlines. So like for me, I create a culture whereby anyone who's working with me, they have to do certain things. If not, they're out, whether they're good or not. And I tend to work only with people who are like, if I don't like you, whether you're so good, because I realize that energy is so important. So I had a scenario whereby there was a very, very talented person who we tried to reach out to work with, but it was really hard to work with this person. And I told my crew, sorry, we can't work with this person. And we got a less experienced person who delivered up and beyond because of the passion that they had. So yeah, so these are just the nitty gritties of coming back home. Yeah, but they are my personal experiences.
So so what has been your challenge in or challenges in doing business in Uganda?
Hmm. Challenges. Let's see. Um, to be honest, I have had very few challenges. The reason is because I understood that I expect nothing from anyone, so I came prepared because people get disappointed. For example, with events management, let's say you're looking for sponsors. You go to all these multinational companies and they have money, yes, but they don't know you and they can't sponsor your event. Then it crashes or you get disappointed. So I had that at the back of my mind, and I decided to do things my own way in my own capacity. And that's why it's been less of a challenge. I kind of after having the experience of running a business abroad in Norway, where in my opinion it was really difficult, um, coming here where it's home, you understand the people, the language, the culture, it became easier. In Norway, the language in the beginning was just impossible. It was a different culture. I didn't know the you know, social settings. When they smile at you in a particular way, it's a no, because they can't really tell you no. I didn't know all these things, and so that built my confidence. So when I come here, I am very straightforward. I'm like, this is what I want. If I don't get it, I move on, and I don't look at it as a negative rather than positive. But knowing a few people, the right people, kind of helps me to move forward. So that's, my challenges have been really less, really, really less. So I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, so I have a friend who is he's here in the U.S. In Rhode Island, and he's an amazing guy when it comes to design, graphic design. He wants to go. He and his family want to go. They want to visit Africa, and he's trying to have a connection to where to go in Africa, and so he's more interested in setting up a what's it called, digital communication company, doing graphic design, doing billboards, and designing signs and things like that. But his fear, I suppose, is that he has never been to Africa. He's never been, and he's more interested in going, but he doesn't know which country to choose. So, so maybe what would you say to the gentleman who is interested in doing something like that?
Well, for starters, if you're looking at that kind of business, digital communication on a wide scale, countries like most of the adverts that we get in Uganda come from, they're designed in Kenya, South Africa, Nigeria, with a DSTV aspect. So those could be maybe the centers that he could look at, but they are monopolies already, there's competition. So when you come to a green country like Uganda, you first have to study who's in the market, what are they doing, and what can you do differently. I would propose taking a tour to Uganda, but before that, just research on available companies that are in the same business that he's in, and then kind of knowing who owned the media through which he would like to, as to deliver, because there's so many graphic designers right now in the world.
Yeah.
You can outsource your work, and so it's not really a special kind of business. I could sit here and have someone in India design my stuff, or in Latin America or whatever. And so he has to be extremely good at what he does. And then when you're coming here, realize that we are so nationalistic. Why would I give a contract to an American, yet I have my Ugandan people who would do the work at maybe half the price? So he also has to understand the politics behind how that kind of business is done. But the best thing, as I said, know the right people, study, and then offer something different. That
Okay, so let's just kind of tell us about
yeah,
what are or what will be the investment opportunities uh, post coronavirus pandemic in Africa in general, and then kind of focus specifically on Uganda.
Uganda. Well, I'd sound like a devil's advocate if I say this, because very many people are saying that there would be a digital shift, from analog to digital. But I don't see that happening. First of all, if you look at the infrastructure, um, internet is extremely expensive for many Ugandans to probably, you know, have the opportunity to work at home and Zoom now and then. So we still have a long way to go, unless that's kind of made as a necessity. You're like, okay, internet is more like having electricity in your house for water, which also so many Ugandans don't have in their homes. So I would see maybe a slight transformation in the tourism sector or the hospitality industry, a very, very small shift. Maybe we will embrace digital communication a little bit more than they did before here in Uganda. Um, Another opportunity would be really the tech community, the healthcare. They would have to look at things differently from how they have been operating before. So those are the avenues. But then these are not transformative ideas that would happen like next month or for the next 2-3 months. It's going to take time. Like currently, we have been affected within the events and travel tourism business. Right now, we are the lowest food chain. So probably maybe there would be opportunity within this business to create more digital presence so that we could move forward. Yeah,
So
I don't know if that makes sense.
what's your evaluation of the event management market in Africa? I mean, how much are we looking at? Billions of dollars, or what's the number?
Uh, for investment or profit? What
No,
do you mean?
for profit in general.
Um, it's a lot. The reason being, um, events are people, and we have the numbers. So, and like for example, in Uganda, we love being happy and we love being entertained. That's why you see a country like Uganda, most of the musicians are quite wealthy because people invest in them directly or indirectly. Um, countries like Nigeria, look at the entertainment industry or the event management. They have so many people. If Davido just stands on stage and performs to, let's say, 100,000 people, how much money is the event company raking it, excluding the sponsors that are coming on board? So the thing about events is that you can either win very big or lose very big. So there is no in between. Your event can flop or you can succeed. So there is a lot of money in Africa in event management. But there's also a lot of investment, and it depends on the kind of events you're having. If it's a really huge concert, you have to invest a lot, millions. If it's a small event, it's the same case. You probably invest less. And it also depends on the names. Are they big names? For example, big names demand big money because they rake in lots of audiences, as well as the pricing. So there is money. That's what I can say, and it can come in millions. Yeah.
As a Pan Africanist, what would be your word to your fellow Africans living in the diaspora who are still on the fence, let's to lack of a better word, moving to Africa, or even taking a leap of faith to say, I want to go to Africa. I want to move back, or maybe go for the first time, or move back to Africa. But I'm still not sure. I'm still scared because, as you know, when you live in the West, so you kind of know what that is. If um, uh, anything that has to do with Africa is, there has some negativity. People ask some very strange questions about what Africa is. And for somebody who has never been to Africa, it's more interested in going to Africa. But based on these perception, or uh, what would you tell what would you tell the person to who is interested in coming to Africa, or coming there, one, for investment, two, to move for good, or some who are interested in even going back? So what would you tell them?
Okay, so this diaspora is the Africans who've never been to Africa, or who
The
are
African,
African and never been, or who are African but they left long time ago and want to return.
one,
Two categories, yeah.
first, the Africans who have left and are more interested in going back. They left Africa many years. They've never visited. They've never gone back. They still think Africa is still the same when they left, um, and they want to return. And two, the African living in diaspora who have never been to Africa but want to go, and that's the maybe African American, or British Africans, or whatever they're called, whatever the African diaspora is called in each country. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, for the first group, the ones who left and want to return, just do it when you're ready. Because sometimes what may work for me may not work for you, depending on my connections or my experience in my industry. So I would just say sometimes the Africans in the diaspora are very comfortable. They have a steady job and that works for them and their families. Um, so I'd just say do it when you're ready. And of course, you may not be 100% sure because of the uncertainty. But if you know the right people, then and you have a source of income that could last you maybe for a full year or two, I would say why not give it a try. Some people take sabbatical from work for maybe 1 year to just try something back home, but not many have the advantage. So I would say before you leap and leave the diaspora, make sure you have something going on for you in Africa. Otherwise, you'll be extremely frustrated. Because our systems sometimes they're very individualistic, as much as before where we were like, oh yeah, we do share, we do, you go to people's homes and you eat and sleep, and that's the norm. Nowadays things have changed. People have become more careful with their spending. So yeah, so just prepare, plan, maybe have a 1 year plan, see how things work. Then live in the country, know people. If the year elapses and things are not working, you can always go back. If they are working, you can stay. Yeah, because you still have a long way to go as Africa. So for the second group who'd never come, why not take a visit, experience it maybe for a month or two or three, a holiday of sorts, and see if this is really what you want. Because sometimes people have this illusion that, oh, it's really lovely in Africa. We have all these ideas in our minds, but when you experience it, that's when you realize, okay, maybe this is what I want, this is what I don't want. But I'll tell you, doing business here is not easy. People especially in Uganda, they sort of live for the day. What am I getting now? So most of the people tend to think like that. So you have that at the back of your mind. Of course, some do think of the future, but if you have very long-term plans, not so many people really want to work with you on particular issues. They want to see quick money. So have that at the back of your mind. I don't know what I can best advise, but yeah, just that for now.
Okay, and just on that too, what would you say with those two groups who are interested in investing in Uganda post, let's say, post coronavirus pandemic? What,
Contact me.
what investment opportunity will be available, or that you think will be the catch in Uganda or Africa in general? Then these people maybe are interested in investing there. And what are the opportunities, the investment opportunities that they can start looking at as we go through this pandemic?
I think the energy sector, solar energy, there's been boom on that subject. Acorn has done that and quite successfully. So that's one area I'd look at. Anything that deals with food would be a very important sector. But then technology that makes things work easier. So then there should also be investment in research. I don't know how far we've come as a country in investing in, startups, research projects that can put our country forward. Like I say, most people tend to think about the now. What do I eat now? Tomorrow, but it's not very long term. So if we could have more thinkers, so like think tanks set up and funded with proactive Africans, I think we could generate more business investments from there. But I know they're there. It's just that maybe they haven't been focused on. But the energy sector is good. Agribusiness is a very, very good field to look at. IT, yes, but unless the monopoly companies uh, come up with solutions to cheapen, communication prices, we will never move forward. We'll always be a developing country because we can't compete with Europe if our internets are very slow, very expensive, for example. So that's what I'd say. Then we also need to educate people on how to use this, advancing changes. Not only people in universities or schools. We have a huge illiterate adult group as well, who are maybe top farmers. They have a lot of money, but they don't know how to use basic stuff. So that could also be an investment area for many people. And you could get money. I mean, for example, someone starting up a center where you teach farmers how to use the internet, not internet, how to use IT for their products. How do you supply it, the logistics behind it, and whatnot. That would be a good investment avenue. So yeah, that's what I can think of right now.
Okay, so yeah, thank you. We are wrapping up now. What would be your last word to our viewers?
Well, I'd say Africa is a really, really lovely continent, despite some of the things that have been said. Uganda is a happening place. I'd recommend so many people to visit. When it comes to investment, just know that there are many opportunities, but before you invest, make sure you're dealing with the right people and your ideas are relevant to the society. Because I've seen many people make mistakes because they have these grand ideas that are not appreciated by the society. And also, I'd say that Africans, we are the only ones who can build our continent. So it's a high time we work together in building this whole continent. So yeah, the generation who can do that. So many of us now have had the opportunity of going and experiencing life in different continents that we can bring back and help to build our countries. So let's use that and let's work together.
All right, thank you. So how can our viewers reach you if they are interested in your company, Afrost Marketing Limited? How can they reach you? What's your information? Could you share your information with our viewers?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. My name is Monica Akech, and the name of the website is Afrost Marketing Limited, www.afrostmarketinglimited.com, and that will give you really all the information needed. Then when you look at the pageants in Uganda, I have a franchise for four different pageants: Miss International, Miss Planet, Supranational, and others. From there, you can find as much information as possible regarding our company and what we do, and some of the goals we advocate for positive change in Africa. That's our beauty queens. Yeah.
All
I
right.
can share the details here with you, then you can just post them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking with you again. And thanks to
Yeah.
all who are watching. Monica has been amazing. She's doing a lot of amazing things. And Monica, I look forward to having you again back on my channel.
Yeah, sure.
We
Anytime.
still have a lot to talk about. I mean, you
Sure.
were doing great things. You were kind of,
Thank you.
sharing the image of Africa, the beauty of Africa to the world, and which is
Thank
something
you.
very, very important. And I really want to have you back again on the show to continue our conversation.
Okay.
And
Okay.
thanks for coming. I know it should be what time in Uganda now? What time is it in Uganda?
It's coming to 3:30 p.m.
So that's a 7 hours difference that we have.
Ah,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
This worked finally.
Well, it did work. Yeah, we've been trying to get this going for a few days now, but no, I'm glad I finally worked out and we're able to
Yeah,
settle on the time.
sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great.
thanks for your thoughts and your experience, sharing your experience with us and sharing your ideas with us, and what's
Thank
possible
you.
for Africa and what are the opportunities that anybody can invest in. Thanks for sharing that. And I just
You're
want to
welcome.
thank the viewers watching. If you're interested in Africa, if you think that you want to be doing what Monica is doing, maybe going back and forth to Africa. I mean, you don't have to settle. I mean, you don't have to live there, but it's also important to have a footprint everywhere. Because the world is changing. It's more interconnected. So having a house in Uganda, having a house in the US, you're not losing. At least you have a vacation spot where to go and spend time with your family. If you have a company in Uganda, you're anytime you go back to Uganda, your money is growing. It's expanding, and
Sure.
and and that is something that is very, very important that I think people need to look into instead of because the word now we have is we have to have multiple sources of income. You can't have one.
Sure.
So if you have a
Yeah.
different stream of income, you are at a better position to weather any storm. And
That's
just like we've seen now, those who don't have that thoughts of having multiple stream of income are deeply affected because there's a lockdown and things, you can't go anywhere. So therefore they can't pay their rent. They can't, pay for food. They can't do anything because their main focus is just on one stream of income. But if you have multiple, you are at a good you are a better chance whether there's a lockdown, whether there's a depression or whatever it is, you can weather those storms.
mhm.
And I think that's
Yeah.
something that Monica is encouraging for people to do. Come to Africa and invest in Uganda, live abroad. I mean, you don't have to move fully. You can go back and forth. That's a great way to do it.
Mhm.
And I just want to thank you very much, Monica, for this opportunity, for sharing your ideas, sharing your thoughts on doing business. And we will talk more again. I look forward to having more of these conversations with you. And
You're welcome.
have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you so much for everything.
All right.
Good luck.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.